He was 45 years old, staring at an eviction notice on his kitchen table. His hands were shaking. Not from fear. From shame. Because this wasn't supposed to be his life. Not at this age. Not after everything he had tried. He had worked. God knows he had worked. Different jobs, different cities, different promises that never quite turned into anything real. And now, sitting in a one-bedroom apartment he could no longer afford, he realized something that made his chest tighten. He had spent 25 years surviving. But he had never actually built anything. His phone buzzed. A message from his younger brother. A photo of a new car. Another milestone. Another reminder that everyone else seemed to be moving forward while he was stuck in the same place, just older and more tired. He put the phone face down and closed his eyes. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept replaying his life like a broken film reel. The jobs he quit because they felt beneath him. The ideas he started but never finished. The shortcuts he took that led nowhere. And somewhere in the silence of that sleepless night, a question formed in his mind. A question he had been avoiding for years. What if the problem wasn't the world? What if the problem was him? It wasn't an easy thought to sit with. But he sat with it anyway. And in the days that followed, something shifted. Not hope. Not yet. But a kind of quiet honesty. He stopped blaming his circumstances. He stopped waiting for the big break. He stopped looking for the easy way. And he started asking a different question. What could he actually do? Right now. With what he had. He had always been good with his hands. As a kid, he used to fix things around the house. Radios. Furniture. Little repairs that made his father nod in approval. But somewhere along the way, he had convinced himself that wasn't enough. That real success had to look a certain way. Had to come with a title. An office. Recognition. So he had ignored the one thing he was naturally good at and spent years chasing things that never felt right. Now, he went back to it. He started small. He posted on a local community board offering to fix broken furniture. $10 an item. It felt humbling. Almost embarrassing. But he did it anyway. The first call came 2 days later. An older woman with a wobbly chair. He fixed it in 20 minutes. She paid him and asked if he did other repairs. He said yes. Word spread slowly. A neighbor. Then a friend of a neighbor. Then a small restaurant that needed help with worn-out tables. He worked quietly. He didn't talk about building a business. He just showed up. Did the work. Got paid. And slowly, over months, something began to take shape. At first, it didn't feel like progress. The money was inconsistent. Some weeks were good. Others barely covered rent. But he kept going. He bought better tools. He watched videos on furniture restoration. He learned upholstery. He started taking on bigger projects. Refinishing cabinets. Repairing antique pieces. Work that required patience. Precision. Time. Things he had never been good at before. And that was the hardest part. Not the work itself. But the waiting. The slow accumulation of small wins that didn't look like success yet. There were nights when he wanted to quit. When he felt foolish for thinking this could ever be enough. When he wondered if he was just wasting more time on another dead end. But something was different now. He wasn't chasing a fantasy. He wasn't waiting for a miracle. He was just building. One project at a time. A year passed. Then another. By the time he was 48, he had a steady stream of clients. He had moved into a better apartment. Not fancy, but his. Paid for by work he was proud of. He started getting referrals from interior designers. Small businesses hired him to restore vintage furniture for their spaces. He wasn't rich, but he was stable. And that stability felt like something he had never experienced before. One evening, He sat in his workshop, sanding down an old wooden table someone had thrown away. The grain of the wood was beautiful under the worn surface. He realized that was what he had become. Something discarded. Something people had stopped believing in. But underneath, there was still something solid. Something worth restoring. He thought about the man he used to be. The one who kept starting over. Who kept blaming. Who kept waiting. And he understood now that the turning point wasn't a single moment. It wasn't a stroke of luck or a big opportunity. It was the decision to stop running. To stop pretending. To work with what he had instead of chasing what he didn't. By 50, he had a small reputation. People knew his name. Not because he was famous. But because he was reliable. Because he did good work. Because when someone needed something fixed, they thought of him. He had hired a young guy to help with bigger projects. He had a waiting list. He had savings. Not a fortune. But enough to breathe. Enough to stop living in fear. And the strangest thing was this. The success didn't feel the way he thought it would. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Steady. Built from 1,000 small decisions to keep going when nothing looked promising. Built from learning to respect the process instead of chasing the result. He never became famous. Never made the kind of money that turns heads. But he built a life. A real one. One that didn't collapse when things got hard. One that didn't depend on luck. And when he looked back at that 45-year-old man sitting at a kitchen table with an eviction notice, he didn't feel anger. He felt gratitude. Because that breaking point was also a starting point. If you're past 40 and feel like you've missed your chance, I want you to hear this. You haven't. But the path forward isn't what you think. It's not a big break. It's not a perfect plan. It's the decision to stop waiting and start building. With what you have. Where you are. One small step at a time. Because success after 40 doesn't come from reinventing yourself. It comes from finally becoming who you actually are.